All right. We ready?
Ready? Take it away.
Number 2 for me is RoboCop. Not that piece of garbage that you saw recently in theaters. No. 1987, Paul Verhoeven, Peter Weller, RoboCop, Nancy Allen, um, and Kurtwood Smith, right? Kurtwood Smith is his name. Saw this movie. All right, I got to tell a story.
Fire away, yeah.
The personal connection with RoboCop. In 1987 it comes out. That would have made me 11 years old. I think Mark actually got to go see a movie or whatever. I didn't get to go, and I was really upset. I didn't get to go to the movies where my dad says, "I'll take you to the movies," and I can't remember what the circumstances were, but only me and him went. Okay, and I got to pick whatever I wanted. Well, I picked RoboCop. That's what I wanted to see. It looked really cool, and I was like, "It's rated R," because my parents wouldn't let us watch rated R, and he's like, "Don't worry about it. It's RoboCop. It shouldn't be a big deal." So we get in there, and right out of the gate, this movie is cussing and violent, overtly violent, and sexual, and plus it had the whole fantasy element and of whatnot of RoboCops and science fiction, of robots and all this kind of stuff. So you picture an 11-year-old kid, you're just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Conversely, our dad, who had a lot of problems, we'll just say that, was beside himself with how violent this movie was. And I remember him actually like rocking in his chair. If you knew the guy, it'd make more sense, but he's crazy. Yeah. He's crazy. He's rocking in his chair, holding his mouth, just flabbergasted, just shocked by how violent this movie was. I'm just soaking it up like a sponge. I'm eating it up. And I fell in love with filmmaking that much more that day. It was my goal after that to keep making movies that would totally destroy my father. And that's kind of my goal, is to keep making movies that will make him keep doing that, even though he's not with us anymore. So yeah, man. I mean, it's I love the story itself of a guy dying, and here's the thing: people always think of it as a revenge movie. It isn't. It isn't. He is not about to avenge rather his own demise. He is out to get revenge for the fact that he's been separated from his family. That's what the whole scene of walking through the house is. He's trying.
Sure.
He wants to avenge that aspect. It's not so. It's the fact that his family is ripped away from him. It's not his own predicament. He never sees himself as a monster and those kind of things that you see so cliche in movies these days. He never has. He doesn't really do that. I mean, he's somewhat shocked. He sees himself, and he wants to know what happened to himself. But his anger comes from the fact that he was ripped from his family. So that really resonates with me. The violence can't go unmentioned. It's on an epic level. The satire in it really works. Critics, I think, focus on the satire too much. You know, to me, it doesn't play as satire as it does to a lot of people that watch it now. All they talk about is how funny it was. And yeah, there's funny elements and stuff. But to me, it was a brutal freaking action revenge flick, you know? And the bad guys, you know, Clarence Boddicker to me might be my favorite bad guy of all time. He might be. If he's not number one, he's definitely number two. My favorite bad guys of all time. He's just so vile. He's sort of everything. And that's one thing I always emulate and love about bad guys who are like everything. He's gay, he's straight, he's a little off, you know, making blood kisses at dudes and stuff. And then the flirtatious sticking the gum and flirting with the receptionist. And he's like everything. He's a drug addict, he's a drinker, he's gambling, it's prostitution, rape, murder. Everything is packed into the Clarence Boddicker. And places also sell out to this corporation. And then you have the Ronnie Cox, your evil corporate, you know, mechanism, and you know, shown through him and whatnot. Just good action sequences, awesome, you know, Rob Bottin, you know, Harryhausen inspired type effects. Ed 209 is just a classic movie to me. He's Ed 209 is just sort of, I don't know. It's almost like the Imperial Walkers. It's just sort of an indelible movie image.
Oh yeah,
that shape. I love RoboCop. It's like the perfect movie. RoboCop is like, what's the perfect movie for Chris? RoboCop. It's everything I like is in it. Literally everything I like is in RoboCop. You know, sex, drugs, prostitutes, bad guys, anti-heroes, evil corporations, machine guns, explosions, you name it. It's in there. Violence. Oh, it's awesome. It's like if it wasn't for number one being so number one, it would be my number one movie of all time. It takes a great movie to knock RoboCop off of my number one list. All right, your rebuttal.
Well, I don't know how much of a rebuttal this is. I give that it's a 4-star movie. It's a great film.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of those films, for me, has stood the test of time.
Right.
And as years have gone on, certainly in the 90s, I wasn't sure if a film like that and some other films from the 80s would actually, be durable and films that you would still feel the same way 20, 30 years down the road. And that film, for whatever reason, seemed to hit all the right notes. It does have some satire, but it mixes action.
Yeah.
There is drama. And I think when people hear the title, RoboCop, I think they're sometimes dismissive of it. Oh, it's got to be just a throwaway action film. But the fact that Paul Verhoeven, the director, did a Peter Jackson in that he took the material serious.
Very seriously.
Very serious. And that's not supposed to be a scene you laugh at when he goes through the house and sees what he's lost. It's tragic.
Heartbreaking, yeah.
It's tragic. And when he first becomes this new creation, RoboCop, he doesn't really have all his memories. That's revealed. He gets his memories back as he goes along. One of the great joys of watching this film 20 years, 30 years later is that you see that it's a film more and more about kind of rediscovery and self-discovery. And those are themes I think make it a treasure.
Mm-hmm.
I would certainly, it's a 4-star movie. I'm sure it would be on my top 200.
Yeah. Same thing. Lord of the Rings to me is a 4-star movies.
Yeah.
But not like essential to me. Yeah.
It's not on my top 100, but that by no means means I think any less of it. I think I obviously you feel strong enough to have it as high as 2. Yeah. I don't feel that strongly about it, but I think it's certainly a great film.
Well, it's just like a certain song. Somebody had that's my song. I heard it at a certain point in my life, and it means something different to me.
Sure.
And it really is. I mean, 11 years old, watching that movie, and when you want to be a filmmaker, and you know me, I know I want to make movies since I can remember. And so you watch in that context, and you grow up loving Star Wars stuff, and you're getting a little older, and this movie, I mean, that's the thing about the movie. You grew up loving, grew up in the 80s, and you love Star Wars, and then you take that sensibility and you mix it with an evolving older sensibility, with the violence and the sex, because you're 11 years old, loving Star Wars. This movie takes that next step into pubescence, in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, oh, I love Star Wars. Oh, now they added violence and sex to Star Wars. You've added violence and sex to Star Wars. This is awesome. Because that's, you're 11 years old, you're starting to go that way. You're starting to, puberty's just right around the corner. Mm-hmm. So it's like a certain piece of music you hear at a certain point in your life that resonates. That movie, I was lucky enough to have seen it in the theater even. At that point in my life, it was just it's just one of those, it's a movie that hit me at the right moment.
Right. A lot of today's musicians, they'll say, I heard the Joshua Tree by U2, and that really set me off.
Right.
Inspired me to be a musician and write songs and so forth.
So much so that I actually have both Blu-rays, and if any other future Blu-rays or whatever else come out of RoboCop, I will certainly buy them as well. And again, like The Matrix, I kind of just ignore that the other stuff exists, because all the other stuff is crap. RoboCop 2 is okay to a degree. 3 is shit. The little TV cartoons they did were shit. The TV little series they did were shit. The remake was shit. So it's 1987 RoboCop. That's it. That's it.
Well, what really annoyed me about the recent remake is it doesn't even get the first the classic we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is that there's a tragedy that's happened.
Yeah.
Well, having her, spoiler alert, having the wife in the remake actually sign an agreement.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. That undermines the whole
The whole
thing.
Baghdad scene didn't work.
That didn't work.
Nothing worked.
I'm like, can you imagine in the original Paul Verhoeven if what it would have done to the story and the wife signed on for him to okay? The point was they did it without the permission. Yeah. He didn't have a choice in it. That's why
a tragedy.
It's like that's the point. That's why it's a great movie. Yeah, he didn't have a choice.
Yeah, it's the tragedy element of it.
And they added choice in the new one, and you're like, y'all don't get it. You've totally gone somewhere out there.
RoboCop is. I don't get geeky over a lot of movies, but I'm total geeky on RoboCop. Like if the only reason I don't have more props and stuff in the movies because I'm not rich. The day I'm rich, I've got a life-size Ed 209. The day I'm rich, I've got a life-size RoboCop replica. The day I'm rich, I have a replica of his gun. Shit, you not. Like, the only reason I'm not more geeky is money. But yeah, that'll be rectified one of these days. All right, we're gonna wrap up this one. We'll come back with our own exclusive #1 show.
#1 coming.